Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I have joining me today Emiliya Zhivotovskaya, and she's a leading voice in the world of positive psychology and the science of flourishing. She is the CEO and founder of the Flourishing Centre and creator of the acclaimed Certification in Applied Positive Psychology program, otherwise known as CAP. And this is offered in 14 cities across the US, Canada, and online worldwide, and has trained over 1,000 practitioners to date. She is the creator of the Bounce Back program, Positive Psychology Coaching Certification, Flourishing Skills Group program, and co-creator of the Positive Education Certification. Emiliya holds a master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania in positive psychology and is currently pursuing her PhD in mind-body medicine from Saybrook University, where she is also an adjunct faculty member. She holds a master's. Emiliya holds a master certified coach credential with the International Coaching Federation, as well as over a dozen certifications in modalities ranging from coaching to yoga, Reiki, intensati, Thai massage, biofeedback, motivational interviewing, and more. And she refers to herself as a pracademicpreneur, emphasizing her work as a practitioner, academic, and entrepreneur, empowering others to apply research in a sustainable way that drives individuals, organizations, and communities to thrive. Prior to her work in the science of well-being, Emiliya was a professional party entertainer, and she educates in a way that entertains and enables people to connect socially to each other. She integrates these tools into a unique approach to vitality and mind-body health, inspiring and empowering others to craft a life of thriving. Emiliya, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Leanne.
Emiliya, I'd love for you to share with our group what inspired you to do what you do?
Wow, what a beautiful question. I think what inspired me was being inspired by other people actually doing this type of work. I remember the first time I heard a person tell me that they were a life coach. I was like, I have no clue what that is, but that's me. That's what I've done my whole life. And I think I was 18 or 19 at the time when I first heard a person say that, and was like, wow, they have careers like that, right? And looking at people who were motivational speakers or teachers, and just people whose teachings were deeply influencing me, were opening my mind, opening my heart, enabling me to connect in such deep ways to people, giving me the opportunity to be seen and be heard. And I just knew very much that I wanted to create those type of experiences for people too, that I wanted to learn and then share. And so that I think that is the essence of who I am and who I'm here to be. My purpose in the world is just to elevate and uplift people, and to let them know that these type of skills and concepts and knowledge, which is so empowering, and has been empowering for me, is available to them. So it really wasn't, there's many life circumstances and obstacles and challenges that brought me to different stages in my life. But really, if I just focus on the inspiration to do what it is that I'm doing, it's just simply knowing that it exists. And as I said in my bio, when I started working when I was 14 years old, entertaining kids' birthday parties and bar mitzvahs and weddings, and I had this really amazing job. And it's like, I look back and it's like, I was doing what? I was how old? I look at 14-year-olds today. It's like, how did I have a business? And I was like working at that age, because they look so little now.
Yeah.
Of course, I wasn't little like them when I was their age. But I had this really beautiful opportunity. I had this career that I loved, that was fruitful for me, that tapped my strengths that I love to do. And so when you're already doing that, even though I was in university, I could either keep entertaining and build more children's party entertainment companies and keep doing that, or I could go for my dream and
Yeah.
go and take a life of wonder and become a motivational speaker and become a trainer. There's kind of no way I was going to take a cubicle job after all that, right?
Yeah, and you do what you do so wonderfully. I met you last year at the World Congress for Positive Psychology in Montreal, and I found you very inspiring, and of course I listen to your podcast, which I love. I listen. I'm a regular listener, so I'm a big fan.
Aw, thank you. Thank you
um,
so much.
so congratulations on all that you do. But how does what you do help or influence the well-being of others?
Wow. Well, so many ways. I think I I'd like to think of myself as a perhaps slightly thinner octopus, in that I have my tentacles in lots of different and different things. So the reason I call myself a pracademicpreneur is first and foremost I'm a practitioner. So I still have an active coaching practice where I coach adults through different stages of their life. I work with teens and tweens sometimes. I'll work with small groups and in group coaching dynamics, and I speak and I teach and I consult. So that's the direct. I actually am a practitioner, but on the entrepreneur side, I created the Flourishing Center as a learning center, a place where people can come to have these learning experiences and get trained in the skills of positive psychology on micro level, just learning the skills, but then also training practitioners. And so the entrepreneur side of my life is not just building my own business, but actually building a business that can help other people who want to become practitioners. So I train practitioners, which is sort of like kind of teaching people to go out and help other people. So over to date, we have trained over 1,000 different practitioners who are going out and sharing this work as coaches and teachers and speakers and facilitators, or people are integrating positive psychology into their work. So if they're yoga teachers or chiropractors or doctors, we have accountants, we have people in marketing, people in finance, they're all out there doing their own unique things in the world, but they're integrating positive psychology into what they're doing. Maybe they're bringing conversations around character strengths. Maybe they're doing gratitude interventions. Like one of our students graduates just today told me she's doing this gratitude veteran writing intervention citywide within her whole city. And the last year that they did this, within just a couple of days, they wrote 20,000 gratitude letters to veterans,
Wow.
and that came out of her final project within the positive psychology certification program that we run. So the ripples, the well-being that we impact, it brings me down to my knees in humble gratitude, that we get to interact with people in this way. And so there's just so many different ways that we impact people's well-being. But when we think about what is positive psychology, it's just a science. It's the scientific study of happiness and optimal human functioning. So in many ways, it's a lot of theory, it's a lot of ideas, it's a lot of concepts. And behind those ideas and concepts, there are maybe activities or interventions and things that we could do. So the way that we influence people really is we first just raise awareness. We want people to become aware of their mind, aware of their body, aware of how the world works, around how what they've evolved for thousands of years. And so the impact we make to people's well-being is just like teaching them about how to be an amazing human in some ways, right? Because like everything that you purchase in our world has a user's manual. My TV comes with one, my phone comes with one, even things that you don't think would have a user's manual, like have one with it. But like we don't come with one. How do I take care of this amazing vessel that is a home for my soul? How do I make it an optimal vessel so I can express myself healthfully, joyfully, vitally? So we raise awareness. And once we raise awareness, then we need to educate people and then give the kind of containers where they can take action on the stuff that because it's not enough to just know this stuff. You actually need to take action. So long-winded about answer to your question, but in that I hope that it helps one capture this idea of what is positive psychology and how do people impact the well-being of others if you're someone who's just passionate about making an impact. And the changes that we see people make are usually changes to what they're thinking, how they're feeling, and what they're doing in the world.
Yeah. And with positive psychology, I find here in Australia it's a bit of a fluffy word. Sometimes we can talk to people, and the minute you mention positive psychology, their eyes glaze over a little bit, and so I find that sometimes I have to rephrase or use some different language. But in essence, it's an amazing tool for for just understanding. It all just makes sense to me. When I started studying positive psychology, it was just, I felt like I'd found my tribe. I felt like that everything just made sense. It helped to understand life in a whole new way, and it was also very reaffirming of things, as far as where I stand as a person and my values, and as you start to understand your strengths and all of these things, it's just it's just so wonderful in the awareness that it raises, and when you say an octopus with tentacles, my golly, you've got lots of tentacles when you consider that you've trained over 1,000 people, and they're all out there on your behalf, almost putting their tentacles out for you as well. That's amazing. That's a massive achievement, so congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor. It really is. And I'm really stoked about some of our newest programs. Because resilience is a really important topic for me in my life, and it has been ever since I was a child. And I'd always ask this question of, because many people told me my whole life I was resilient, and they would say, "Wow, Emiliya, you're so resilient," or they'd be like, "Wow, you're amazing." If I had gone through everything that you had gone through, I don't know if I'd be able to handle it. Which, if anyone is listening to this, if you've been through traumatic life events and people say that to you, you're kind of like, please don't say that to me, because what you do when life gives you a difficult circumstances, you figure it out. You kind of do what you need to do. But so I did that, right? You just kind of figure it out. But then I got to university and studying positive psychology over a decade ago with this question in mind, asking, what does it mean to really be resilient? And this is where people confuse what is positive psychology. They think it only has to do with this happiness factor. And positive psychology is actually a rigorous science that is studying lots of different factors that enable flourishing. And so resilience has always been a topic I was interested in, to say, how do we actually teach people resilience? So I'm excited that we've got this resilience trainer program, that our graduates of our positive psychology program go out and they teach resilience skills in a very systematic way. And our second program that we just recently built is we built the world's first positive education certification program. And so we'll be launching our third cohort and a 5-day intensive this summer as well, giving school teachers the training in understanding positive psychology, and then giving them this toolkit of how to teach it to children using animations and stories and things that really speak to the young people of today. And so that's particularly just riveting for me, to be able to know that children are going to start to get these skills. I thought I'd won the winning lotto when I started to learn this stuff at the age of 14 and 18. I was like, whoa. And now we've got teachers teaching mindfulness to children in schools, and we see them learning about the power of kindness and teaching the concept of compassion and self-compassion, and children are learning to deal with emotions and how emotions impact them, things that should be part of education, and it's sad that we needed to get so far away in some ways from these things, and obviously not all schools are actually adopting positive education. So we're on the one hand, I would say we're barely making a dent, and on the other hand, it's super exciting to see just the impact that we're already making when school teachers are able to get this into the hands of young people.
Yeah, positive psychology in education over here is making a real dent. I was only led a mindfulness class last week, and one of my participants was talking about how that she's a teacher, and positive psychology is being introduced into her school, and we had a marvelous conversation around it. It's really good to connect on that level. Education,
Yeah.
not being my field, but I think it doesn't matter. It's all interconnected, and so important for young people of today, with all of the stuff that they have going on in their world. Is very different, a very different time for them compared to back when you and I were at school, probably.
Yeah, and you guys are way ahead of the game in terms of Australia. I was part of the first group of teachers that came from America to the Geelong Grammar School,
Yes.
literally more than almost exactly 10 years ago to the day, actually, because I think it was February 2008 that we were there. And so you guys are ahead of the curve in what you're doing, and it still feels relatively new, but it's
Yeah.
starting to catch fire. I remember the controversy it brought up for the whole at that point, who are these Americans coming in trying to bring happiness to our Australian students, and it caused a little bit of a stir. But what you guys are up to, that anywhere I go, I say Australia is spearheading positive education. You have been for a decade, and there was a lot of people who got it, and did the do work to really begin to start making this spread, not just within education, but really think about policy and within systems wide change. So I think you guys are modeling it for us where I'm at on the other side of the planet.
And actually, some of the followers in this group are teachers, and we have had conversations around positive psychology in school, and I think what you've just said reaffirms just the fire. I love that comment about getting the fire started. I think that's such a true way of looking at it. Emiliya, we're getting ready to close up our quick conversation, but before we do you have a wellbeing tip or a book or some advice that you would like to share with the group?
Sure. Um, I unfortunately am just like a little bit of a slot machine, because obviously there's just hundreds of tips, and there's so much that we can do to to increase our well-being. So rather than being one of these like just pull the dial and I'll just like it's like pick a topic, pick an area of life, pick a this. And because we've been talking about it, I'll maybe really focus on mindfulness. Also, it's been a bit of a personally challenging week where I really have been coming back to my mindfulness practice, and so much so that I'm actually thinking I've been stopping to think, wow, imagine how different this scenario would be if I didn't have such a strong mindfulness practice. So because I'm like, well, like this could go very different than it's going right now.
Yeah.
So I'll share some ideas around just simple ways that I utilize my mindfulness practice to help me show up in the world the way that I want to, and maybe help some of the offer this to the viewers as well, because I think sometimes mindfulness gets a little overcomplicated. Like, what does it mean to be mindful? And we think that to practice mindfulness, you need to meditate every single day, and that's great. Like, meditation practices are amazing because they do help train us to be more mindful in the world, which is one of the reasons I meditate. There's definitely a spiritual component to my meditation, where there's an opportunity to connect to something bigger than myself, and then there's this other element where it just trains my brain a little bit to be more likely to do what I want it to do. Because without that, especially when we're stressed out and we're overwhelmed or we're triggered and there's just a lot being thrown at us, those are the times that we regress to our patterns. The same way that when a child is triggered or scared, will run back to its parent and kind of wrap their arms around their legs. when we're stressed out, when we're overwhelmed, while we could be happy and grateful and kind of connected on a day-to-day basis, sometimes when we get triggered, we just regress back to some of those ways of being in the world. So, so mindfulness practice can help us down-regulate some of that and come back into like what's happening right here, right now. And so the easiest way to practice mindfulness is obviously through breathing. One of the reasons for it is because your breath is always with you and you always have it available to you, and you don't need fancy equipment and you don't need sneakers. Your breath is always available to you. So breathing is frequently used as a way to give us a focal point, and there's a lot of research that shows that just even that center focal point onto the breath is a way to get our breath to be deeper. It enables us to have something to focus our attention on, and like it sort of takes the mind that goes in lots of different places and focuses into a single point. So I will do that practice just dozens of times throughout the day. And when you become just more focused on like, just let me take a breath, and then once I take that breath, let me take another breath, you really can begin to have your breath be your best teacher. So when we start to do these little mindfulness practices, we become more full, more mindful in our life and our just way of being in the world. And we become more sensitive to being aware of things. So I kind of tied it back to, I've got a lot going on in my week this week. And I think back to myself, if I wasn't so aware of where my mind is going, I wouldn't be able to catch that thought and be like, okay, brain, that wasn't helpful. Or brain, come on, we don't need to think that right now. Or we know that's not true, silly brain, and I'm able to catch these things and actually work and redirect my thoughts. But if I didn't have that mindfulness practice that keeps me kind of like aware of what I'm thinking about, aware of my scenario, aware of how something is impacting me, I think I would just be a little bit of a train wreck. So I want to invite the listeners to kind of think that mindfulness has way broader implications than just even meditation or even relaxation, that really it's the golden ticket to being more masterful at your life, because I define a master as someone who's able not necessarily to control every element of one's life, but can I feel the way I want to feel? Can I think the way I want to feel? Can I show up the way I want to show up? And so yeah, I would just recommend to people, if you don't currently have a practice of just noticing your breath, start there. There are other ways of doing other mindfulness around other sensory things like your body, and you can do all sorts of different meditations around it. But as you start to practice, your breath becomes your teacher. If my breathing is shallow, I'll instantaneously be like, okay, I really need a break right now, because I feel like I'm sucking wind out of a straw, like I can't take a deep breath in. Or I'll be like, okay, things are good. I'm feeling really broad and spacious and all of that right now.
Yeah. Thanks so much, and I totally agree. Look, thank you so much for spending this time to have a chat with me. Now, if people would like to find you, I'm going to pop some links for the Flourishing Centre and your podcast with the conversation. But is there any other way that they can get hold of you, or what's your preferred way if someone would like to contact you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, through the website is great, on our website, theflourishingcenter.com, or you can just drop me an email. It's Emiliya@emiliya.com, Emiliya.
Excellent. That's easy to remember. And Emiliya, are you coming to IPA next year?
I am. We'll be there. We'll have a booth. We'll definitely be represented, and so excited to head on over to you guys. And yes, we'll definitely be a part of it. But next year,
that's wonderful. So that's the World Congress for International Positive Psychology, as the International Positive Psychology Association. So thank you so much for your time. And,
you're welcome,
and I look forward to seeing you in Melbourne next year.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
To hear. Thank you so much.